there's nothing, I can't say anything good about bodybuilders at all. What a total waste of your life, you know.
So I just thought I'd mention I'm wearing the American Barbell shirt because that is the latest episode of Mutant on a Mission. I thought I'd just mention it. Nice. So anybody wants to watch my latest Mutant on a Mission, head over to the Mutant YouTube channel and check out American Barbell. So Nate was an awesome guy. I know I mentioned the gym already when we went after the before the Arnold there. But yeah, had fun. Gym looked awesome. There's lots of like crazy expansion he's going to do. So
they have a bunch of Prime machines, right?
Yeah, a bunch of Prime, bunch of Rogers. He's a guy that had that 11-acre piece of land, and he built the house on one side. And it was like zoned for half commercial, half residential. Like
he's like,
it's perfect.
It's like the type of thing that, you know, you bribe someone on city council to do for you. Like zone this one commercial and zone this one residential. Like just so perfect next door to each other. So yeah, I wish him luck. But great gym, and I look forward to going again when we go to the Arnold next time.
Nice.
And a great shirt. Like that design is
It's
awesome.
good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, eh? Yeah,
you know what it should have, though? Some sort of a gun also should be on the picture.
Just take it that extra, like.
Yeah, go all the way.
That would be good.
Absolutely.
That extra.
I have a shirt coming next week for you, Ron. Well, it's does
it have a gun on it?
It does, and I don't want to say too much more, but it'll be an homage to Canada. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I saw a great, speaking of guns, I saw a great thing that made me think of you, Scott.
Yeah.
I'm sure you might have even seen it yesterday, but someone put up a thing that said, legal gun owners have 300 million guns and probably 1 trillion rounds of ammo. If we were the problem, you'd know.
You'd know it.
Yeah, right.
I was like, it's a very valid point.
That JP guy, the like Awakened with JP guy.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
He did one on gun control, and he said, he was like, we should just make murder illegal. And it was like, wait, we've already done that.
Why don't they just outlaw murder? They already have. And the criminals still break the law?
Well, the thing about, the interesting thing about gun control as a Canadian is if you look at the percentage of legal guns that are used in crime, it's insignificant.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I talk to cops. Cops tell me the guns that are used in all of the crime, like almost all of the crime, are illegal guns anyways. They're smuggled in. They're not ever legally owned by anybody. There's not like this massive number of stolen firearms. Like, because that's what gun people say. Like, oh, well, those guns are out there and then someone steals them and uses them. The percentage of that is like really, really low. Like it's a joke. It's guns being smuggled in. They're coming right across the border here. The cops tell me they're coming right across the border into Surrey.
Yeah.
And they're coming thousands of guns at a time, hundreds of guns at a time. And they're the ones that are getting used in the vast majority of the crime. So the legal gun owners, the people who have a restricted firearm license, are one of the least likely groups of people to ever commit a crime.
Right.
No kidding. I believe that.
Like I have a restricted firearms license. Statistically, I will never get arrested. I will never commit a crime. Statistically, I'm one of them. I'm in the category of one of the least to worry about citizens. Right. So restricted gun owners aren't the problem. And legally owned firearms aren't the problem. They're all in safes. Everyone has their gun in a fucking safe because it's a law. So the idea of further restricting guns in Canada is just low information people who don't know what's actually happening. They listen to these sound bites, and of course, compassion is being weaponized in some of these cases because. I mean, who's not compassionate to like this last thing that happened? Just unbelievable, But, I also saw someone commented that they're from Sweden. Someone commented on some video I was watching, and they're like, I don't understand why your classrooms don't have external exits, emergency exits. In Sweden, every single classroom has an outside exit. So if anyone ever walked in with a gun, all the kids would just walk out their fucking classroom door.
Yeah, they wouldn't be stuck to have to go down hallways.
And I was like, oh, fuck, that sounds like a huge fail.
It seems really obvious when it's pointed out like that.
My school never had one.
The way I see it is personally that in what I've said to people is, and it was really part of it was after I got sick. I started seeing that, like you and you're nobody's going to care about your life as much as you do.
No one cares about you.
And I recognized that
we
are
those
our
cops
own.
Didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
No shit.
We're our own first responders, and
Yes.
If there's somebody out there who's, deranged or basically just selfish, somebody that doesn't care about my life as much as I do, I want to be able to do more than just pray that they have mercy on me if I run into them. That's really what it comes down to. And if there were more people that felt the way I did, then when there was an active, I'm going to say active killer. I want to take the term shooter out of our vocabulary. An active killer. If there was an active killer, then
a van through a crowd of people,
10 people would turn on him, real quick. And further, to the way that our society portrays these people, I think that we shouldn't say what their names are. I think that we shouldn't find out anything about their story. What went wrong with them? We should just ridicule them, belittle them, make them feel like a piece of shit, and make people feel like, man, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be.
Yeah, it's a really, it's one of the most fascinating psychological short circuits that happens in the primate brain. Do you know what I mean? Like, of all the things to go wrong with people, that's just that to think that can be a thing that goes wrong with those fucking that is wrong with you. Like, whether those guys are born psychopaths or their brains have just been demolished by trauma and horrible upbringing, they've reached a point that's just like, it's crazy that they can get to want to do that. That story is just, I mean, I had to kind of stop paying attention to it. I was watching Breaking Points in the morning, and they were keeping me up to date with the Uvalde Police Department and how they were like, not commenting on it and not even like really cooperating with like some of the questions being asked. And that sounds like there's a lot of people on that police department that have a lot to answer for. Like, that was crazy. That woman that ran in and got her kids, two kids in two different classrooms, and ran out with them. Like, unbelievable, But
they also didn't really do a great job here, at least, of like drawing attention to what brought it to an end. I had to like dig in to find it.
That border guy.
Yeah, a guy whose kids
off-duty border
were there,
guy.
and
drove all the way home and got his gun.
While he, I read in a story that was like he was like getting a haircut or something. He's like, his wife shoots a message. He's like, oh fuck, all right, well, I got this.
Did he go home and get his gun, or did he tell his wife?
No, he got it
his
from.
Gun?
No, he said what I read. So take this for what it is. Was that he asked his barber if he had a firearm, and he said yes, and he took it from there.
Right.
And it was like a shot. It was like he's like, this isn't really the perfect weapon for this. It was like a shotgun. And he's like, all right, that'll do.
That's a badass move. That's like Die Hard right there. You know what I'm saying?
That's like movie shit. Do you have a firearm? You got to love that when you're in an area where the guy's like, of course I do. It's right here.
Yeah.
How the reporting goes is kind of weird. There was another really recent case of some dude who felt teed off or whatever at some people. They were having a picnic. I guess it was some sort of family reunion or something. I don't remember the details, but he came back with an AR and started shooting. And it was one person that happened to be there, a woman with her CPL, and she took him out before anybody could get hurt. But they don't bring attention to that stuff because it doesn't fit
that's a good
the
story.
agenda.
That's a bad narrative. Yeah. It's stopping a bad thing is not the narrative they're looking for.
Yeah.
I will say there's the world sees the United States as just you guys running around shooting each other. That's how the world sees it. But there's 5 cities. It's actually 5 cities.
Yep.
So the stat that I just saw is America is 3rd on gun violence worldwide. But if you remove 5 cities,
Chicago, St. Louis, LA.
Yeah, Detroit.
Yeah.
And I
don't
can't
know
remember the other
one.
two. There's 5 cities. If you remove those 5 cities, America falls to 189th
Huh.
on
No
in
kidding.
gun violence.
Yeah. And those 5 cities are the ones that are the hardest on gun control, which is what's the
Yeah,
funny
they
part.
actually have the hardest gun control in those 5 cities too, which is another interesting point. But it's all the the stats are in what is it 90? Is it 95% of it is gang violence? All the gun violence in America. It's not like just regular people running around shooting each other at all. It's gang violence is like 95% of your crazy numbers.
That's a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so just think some cities there's like literally hundreds of gun crimes on a weekend.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you,
those stats just get insane. Like up in here in a Canadian city, there's like a handful on a weekend.
I can tell you that. So, and this is years ago. I used to, when I was about like 15, I was making money. My dad's friend, by babysitting his 2 kids, and he lived in Redford, which is one of the border cities to Detroit, West Side, and this is the area they call Brightmoor on that part of Detroit, and they're very small homes, all packed close together, and there's a lot of gang activity there. Like that area of Detroit, what I've discovered is like those guys. They're all younger and they've got something to prove. So there's a lot of crazy shit going down, a lot of dope being sold over there versus like the more you get downtown, the more it's like the bigger old houses and things are just like chill, quiet. People are doing their thing and just business as usual, drug dealing. But there's a lot. And I remember I would sit on the porch in the summer and you could just hear it all night. Just pow, 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 from like the, a few blocks away. It was literally all night long.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to admit, like there's a couple times I heard a gunshot in a city, and it's very rare because I live in Canada. But if you I have heard one, and it's like, holy fuck, that was definitely a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But down in some of Detroit, pop, 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 pop. It's like popcorn all night.
That actually just helps you sleep. It's like they call it white
It's
noise.
like having the fan on.
Okay. You turn that off. It's very uncomfortable. They're like, what should we do now?
Wait, I can't sleep here. I can't sleep out in the country.
The guy starts popping popcorn instead. All right, we're fine.
Yeah, he goes on holidays. Has to run a blender all night. Okay. So what are we doing? We doing some YouTube questions, Scott? Are we just gonna?
Sure.
What's up?
Sure. I've got like 6 of them.
Good. Well, what's the latest with Dusty first of all?
Yeah.
What's your update? What do you have to add? How are you going to make the world a better place by telling us about your life?
Oh God. Well, I mean, I could tell them about my life so they could feel better about themselves. I mean, that would be helpful, right?
Well, maybe that's your today.
No, nothing crazy. I will say that I put up last week. I decided just for fun to just put up like things that had nothing to do with bodybuilding on my Instagram, and just one post with like 10 pictures. And a lot of people dug it, but coincidentally, I had taken a picture of them putting the foundation on my house a week ago, and it was awesome. Today they put the roof on it.
Wow, that's fast.
And I'm like, okay, apparently framing is a very fast thing. I had no idea. Like, I went to check on it. I was like, holy shit, there's a house there.
Yeah.
So that was a big bonus. So stoked on that. It's still going to be 4 months before it's done, but it at least got me excited. And then I closed on my mother's house, got her moved in, and I've already started immediately the carpet that was in the house. It had wood floors and then carpet. I don't do carpet. So that came out, replaced the floors yesterday. So
then you put stairs on the deck because it was just like a floating deck. Like there was no stairs down.
Who doesn't? I go, how the fuck you got to get downstairs? Because her house is like on a hill, Scott.
Yeah.
So I needed to have a flight of stairs put on, but thankfully the same guy did both.
Cool.
So his business.
Nice.
So knocked them both out on Saturday. We're in business. So now it's easy. The only thing that's gotten a little tricky is my mom still hasn't figured out that I don't talk on phones.
Oh.
She keeps calling my text device.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing. So like this morning, I shot her a text to verify something, to make sure it was good. I'm putting an invisible fence on her yard so her dogs can roam, but they're locked in. And I said, is a lady coming? What time's the lady coming? Is it still 10? She sends back 10 to noon, but I'll give you a more exact time. Okay. Now I'm in the gym, and then my phone rings. And I answer it. She goes, should be 10:30 to 10:45. I'm like, that was textable.
That's a text.
What are we doing here?
So I have to just rewind a little bit. You said something and I just allowed it to go past so you could finish your sentence. What's an invisible fence?
You don't know what a visible fence is, huh?
Oh,
An invisible fence? Is that what you said?
Yes. So there's no fence, but there's a fence for dogs. So
it sounds like James
they have
Bond
a collar
shit.
on them.
Oh,
and then if they
the
walk up,
collars
they can't
and
walk
buzz.
out.
Yeah. My parents have
They're
that.
simple.
It works good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It doesn't keep other dogs out of your yard, though. That's the only thing you got to watch for.
Yeah, but my mom's yard is down. There'd be no reason to be there.
Yeah.
Like you're not walking that area. So yeah, it's good. It'll be a nice thing because she didn't realize. She was like, I need a fence. I was like, I'm not spending $15,000 to put a fence in your yard. She was like,
I thought you meant you were
costs.
putting a fence up, but you were going to get, like, I thought it was like going to be covered in like foliage so you couldn't see the fence.
It's
Like, you were
army
getting
fence.
like a gardener to come in and put vines all over the fence to cover it. I was like, what's an invisible fence? But now
Hold up. This is getting confusing.
Yeah. Very expensive. Very expensive.
It's going to be painted just like like
You could
everything.
run right into that fucking thing.
If you
Gotta be
look
careful.
at it, it'll just look like the surrounding terrain. Yeah. Optical illusion.
I love that my life is such a mess that Ron processes into something totally. He's like, this guy's getting shit done to his face every other week. Maybe there is an invisible fence.
Well, I don't know. I'm a bad consumer. We've been over this. I'm not good at buying stuff, and sometimes I don't even know stuff exists. I'm like, oh, really? That's awesome. And like, like I'm not the type of guy that wanders through Best Buy and like grabs like the newest stuff and like, oh, I got these and this. I'll see someone using something. I'm like, oh, what's that? Like they have to.
He's like, it's a cell phone.
I'm a bad shopper. Yeah. So
Yes,
I noticed that I think my phone just slowed down.
They do that to you on purpose. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So I think they just happened to also tell me that I'm eligible for an upgrade. And
I was
all of a
going to
sudden
upgrade your phone, slow down the next day.
Yeah, the very next day, it's just like a little bit less responsive. When I do like the face scan, it takes like an extra second to get into it every fucking time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, those seconds add up. They're trying to send me a message, right?
I actually I think it was Todd, my video guy. He is one of those guys. He's like, my phone works. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Right? And he just,
Right.
Eventually they stopped like doing updates. And he like literally had to get a new phone, which I get such a kick out of because I'm like, this guy has all the coolest shit, lives the coolest life. Like, and he's like, what's that phone? Fuck you.
What's the oldest phone you could still use? Like, can you still have like an old Nokia flip phone?
Yeah, you could still
call it.
Yeah.
No, those ones, it's more like the smartphones where they kind of age them out. Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. But how far back can you go and still take a phone call?
Like, could you have an iPhone 4,
No, like, could you have like a Motorola from 1999?
Oh,
like
yeah.
a Razor?
Yeah, because they
phone? Yeah.
have those
like
as
a
like the
Razor.
burner phones. You can still buy those. You just, you can't text or
Weird that
anything
you know
now, really.
that, Scott.
Is it like but what I'm saying is
burner
like,
phone.
I know that it's like looks like the same phone and it's just basic and you can just call people on it.
You're saying an actual 1999.
Is it the same chip and the same technology and it'll still work on the same? I don't know how crazy that stuff gets. And what's the oldest phone you can still text somebody?
Like a T9 texter?
Yeah, like an old school text. What's the oldest phone you could still text to like your iPhone? I wonder. I don't know. I wonder how like
Well, what
how
is your
functional
phone?
they are.
Because you still have face recognition, so it can't be that old.
No, I got like the 10X Max or whatever, like the big 10X.
So your phone's not that old, yeah.
But it's that 1 second. That's it. That's just a 1 second every time I do something.
You know what's funny about that, Ron? Is we are old enough that we all did like AOL and had to wait for the modem. And now if something is like less than 0.0 seconds, we get frustrated.
Yeah.
Sensitive.
Like, what the fuck?
I'm also getting more aware that I'm one day closer to death. So let's not waste these seconds.
That's a valid fucking point. I think about that with old driving. I'm like, you of all people should want to get where you're fucking going. It's almost over. Why are you going 30 in a 45? That's a problem here, by the way. People drive under the speed limit.
Oh, yeah.
There's just Vancouver. Terrible drivers.
I had somebody the crazy, like I thought it was a Detroit driver when I was in Vancouver. We were like obeying the law, going the speed limit. I wasn't like speeding or anything, but we were making a right-hand turn, and this guy started honking his horn behind us. We're waiting at a light, and then he blew past the light, turned right, and then made a big U-turn in the middle of the intersection, flipped us off, and took off. It was a fucking Canadian too.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Vancouver.
He must have known you were a Yankee.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah. I didn't think that kind of thing happened, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. We're not always nice. We're not always nice. We take our road rage very seriously.
Do you? See,
That's good.
Okay.
They treat road rage like hockey. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a little hockey in us, right? So if you're parked at a red light, you got time for a little.
You know,
get back in
speaking
your
of
car.
that, Ron, have you been watching the hockey? Oh my god.
Yeah, just a highlight. Just be keeping up on the highlights.
Dude, so my friend is a huge Rangers fan.
Yes.
They go up 2-0. And I was like, we'll see. Because I picked Tampa like the beginning of playoffs to win again. We'll see. Avs are better. But anyways, at the end of game 2, the Lightning have won. And end of game 3, the Lightning have won. Now they're up 3-2 in the series. And for whatever reason, the game is over. And there's a scuffle at the end. And the captain of the Lightning, who's not like a known like fighter, actually gets in a fight. Nothing crazy happens, but I literally texted him. I said, should not have done that. Their entire team is lit up. The very next day, they close him out in Tampa, and he scores the only 2 goals of the game. It's like when you play sports, you can see that shit. You're like, oof, that was a mistake. So,
Really?
you can, I mean, it's just, I watch the reaction of all the other players. Like, if one of your fighters gets in a fight, you're like, that's what they do.
But when your captain gets in a fight,
Yeah. It'd be like if, compare us, like if Sidney Crosby got in a fight and actually did all right, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, that's not even your job, you know?
It elevates the rest of the team is what you mean. The whole team.
Oh, yeah. You
steps
could
up.
see they were amped. I mean, literally, they were like high-fiving and shit, like something crazy had happened. And it wasn't a big scuffle or anything. It wasn't even a big deal. So it was fun to watch. And I actually sacrificed half of that game for my mother's birthday party. So I'm kind of a good person.
Oh, you're a good son. How old's your mother?
I have no idea, but I keep telling her that she's 80. I think she's in her 60s, but I don't actually know. She's older than 41 because I know how old I am.
So she's at least 50. She's at least 57. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, and I just told her, I was like, look, I lie about my age. You can lie about yours. It's fine. We're good.
Right. Okay.
No one believes either one of us. So, yeah. But, yeah. So, yeah, I want, if there is a heaven, I should get a spot there just for that. So, there's that.
You've been a good son, Dusty. I will give you that from what I know.
Thank you. I do my best to make up for all the bad shit. So what do we got for questions, Scott? You got some? Or you?
Yeah, we're doing YouTube. I think we're doing some YouTube questions.
Okay.
And I think Scott said, things were going pretty good with YouTube questions. I think Scott said.
Yes.
He had a few.
With that said, guys, comment with your questions, plus comments, all that stuff.
Sometimes we just go over the comment,
Yeah,
we didn't do the like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Yes.
There we go.
I just threw that in randomly because no one did it. I'm like, fuck it, ring the bell.
This is what, episode 145?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There we go.
So I'll start here. We had a training question.
Bring Jed in.
What's Jed up
Hey,
to
Jed,
today?
come here, bud. He's interested in something.
Okay, so it would be awesome if you guys could explain how you would set up a back day for thickness and a back day for width.
You guys
Okay.
go.
Well, I've done that before. I've trained back twice a week before with that strategy. And I'm not sure if I think about it as width versus thickness. I guess I tried to not think of it that way. But what I did do was sort of set it up with like rows and deads on the one day because there was so much lower back stress. So one day was like a bent over, sort of barbell row, cable row, maybe a hammer row machine and a deadlift. And then the other days were like pull downs and stuff. And that was just because I only wanted to stress out my lower back that way once a week. You know, so I didn't put like barbell rows on one day and then like, you know, T-bars on another, because I just tried to keep all the kind of bent over hard lower back stuff on the one back day, which is, you know, rows and deads. And then the other day was a pull down day. But I remember purposely trying not to think of it as width versus thickness, because I don't really think that way. I just think of like getting the lats and traps and everything to grow. So,
right.
But yeah, that's how I did it.
Scott?
I would say, you know, I would say the same thing, that I don't like specifically think like this is for width and this is for thickness so much. I think of splitting it up in, you know, pull down type movements, row type movements, and then hinge type movements, like a deadlift type movement or, you know, a rack pull. But I'll tell you what I've been experimenting with some guys lately. We've been doing for the last couple of years, the people I work with have been doing a lot of push pull legs, heavy progressive overload. And then we started experimenting with say, for instance, a guy wants to bring up his back and his chest. Then we're doing push pull legs. And the next workout would be back. Next workout would be chest, or chest and then back. And for those days, instead of the heavy progressive overload, we're doing a little bit higher volume. You know, instead of like top set, back off set, we're doing like 3 sets, and maybe using a machine now, and using things that almost put a governor on it, like trying to say maybe take shorter rest periods between sets, using constant reps, stuff like that. And because I think at the end of the day, as awesome as progression is, if there's anything left on the table, you might be able to pick that up and get it with a little bit more volume. So, and especially if we're doing all progressive overload all the time, and you do that for like 5 months, and then we go to this, I think bringing that volume in and getting like the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, as they call it, getting the more like the round bubbly look from, you know, more reps, I think that works nicely. So I would almost think of maybe splitting your workouts up into possibly something like that, where you're really hard, really heavy progressive for part of it, and then think about maybe really trying to volumize the muscle as well. Just a thought.
Okay. Interesting. What about you, Dusty?
That was awesome. Which, now I have to change the subject real quick. Scott, you had another overall winner that happened to be from here this weekend.
He didn't win the overall. He overall.
Didn't?
No, he didn't,
he
but thank you.
Scott.
Yeah, heavyweight, he won. It was his first show. Chad, shout out to Chad.
Yeah.
He won his true novice class, the novice overall, and then he won heavyweight first show. So and he took second overall. So he needed a couple more weeks, which we have. We're setting up to do 2 shows, so we're gonna do it again.
Oh, nice.
In 2 more weeks. Strong dude. I should get a picture of him. You guys, like, he owns a
powerlifting gym.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I didn't know. You got to pull that up. You posted, his girlfriend had posted it, and you shared her story or whatever on yours.
Yeah.
So I clicked on it to see who it was, because it was your client, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I met this girl.
No kidding.
And I realized that they were, because but I was still stoned after my sickness when I met her, but I do remember meeting her. And it all connected, because I went to his page and saw that they owned a gym, and I was like, oh shit, that's wild. So yeah, look at you.
Thank you.
Blowing people
Yeah,
out.
good job. Good job.
I appreciate it.
I had no idea it was his first show. The guy looked freaking awesome.
This isn't like his
rip people.
Thank you. So this isn't his final pictures. This is just one I happen to be able to find like on the spur of the moment. But look at these quads on him. He's got some, and it got
like
stronger.
The fibers just dancing.
Yeah, everything is like striated in his legs. This is from a little while ago. One of the pictures
Really
I just
thick
happened to save.
teardrops. Like his teardrops are big.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like they take up a lot of his leg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Those are freaky teardrops, man.
really cool.
They're both powerlifters. His wife is a powerlifter too.
Yeah.
And like
I bet
they're
he squats
serious
deep.
powerlifters. Oh yeah.
with
I of
that.
course, it was a rabbit hole situation, Scott. Like I clicked on yours and I clicked on hers, and next thing you know, I'm like halfway down his page. I'm like, whatever you do, don't accidentally like something. The guy's gonna think I'm a stalker.
Yeah, from like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not what it looks like. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, no.
good
As
work.
far as the question, same exact thing. The only thing that I do recommend for people is I did describe it as thickness and width because it's the same shit.
Yeah, those are the terms I like.
Yeah.
I know everyone uses. So
Yeah.
But it's like the only thing I always did is I always would suggest they did one of the other movements on the opposite day. So like if you were doing a thickness day, I'd open you up with a lat pull down or something first and then go get started. I always like doing that anyways. I mean, the majority of my workouts are only a couple movements anyways, but I always felt better doing my width work first, my rack chins or whatever, because I felt like my back was open. So then when it was time to bend down and do a deadlift or whatever, I kind of felt like primed, so to speak.
Yeah. I actually think I did that too. I think there was like one, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then on the pull down day, there'd be at least a hammer row.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Support, chest
I
supported, or a cable low or something like that. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Good question.
What else we got?
Okay. I got all distracted thinking there's a comment, not a question, but Brent said, working at a client's today, got this blasting in their new outdoor sound system. Thanks as always for the great content. And I said, so basically you're about to get fired. And he said, no, I'm self-employed. And the client is a fan of the show also. I thought that was cool, man.
That's amazing.
Hey, that is funny. That is funny. I had a new member sign up at the gym the other day, and I just happened to be there. So I'm behind the counter, and I think I was covering, like staff went to get food or something. So I just happened to be behind the counter, and he comes in. He's like, "Hey, I just wanted to join," and I was like, "Oh, okay, blah blah blah. How'd you hear about the gym?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, my friends train here and all this," and I signed the guy up.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Oh, good episode last week, by the way."
Yes, that's so cool.
And I had to make sure I go, "Are you talking about the Mutant on a Mission that came out of the podcast?" And he goes, "Oh, I saw that too, but I watch your podcast all the time." So he actually saw both.
That's cool.
There we go.
It was just funny. It made me laugh because, he didn't let on at all.
He had any idea who you were?
He didn't
Or
say "Oh, hey, Ron," or anything like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He
Yeah,
was just cool. He's like, "Oh, I just want to join," So it was kind of funny. They're out there and they're sometimes keeping it to themselves.
Yeah. Morgan's got one for us. So
big Morgan Mac.
Question for the next episode. What would you guys do to pass the time in between meals during prep when starving? Also, any calorie dense food concoctions when trying to get huge. So he's starving, but he's also daydreaming about getting a lot of food.
Right.
That's always how it works. When you're starving. You're dreaming of off season when you're in prep. And when you're in the off season, you're force feeding. You're like, God, I can't wait to just be shredded.
You know what? I think the ultimate little weight gain snack, easy to get down, calorie dense, lots of
Chocolate chip
energy,
cookies.
calories. We all get enough protein.
Yeah.
When you're trying to bulk up, you don't actually need more protein. You're already eating like fucking 300 plus 400 grams, the big guys, guy his size probably eating 400 grams already. So if he's hungry, it's not protein he needs. It's just energy. He needs peanut butter sandwiches. They are peanut butter sandwich, about two pieces of toast with a bunch of peanut butter between them.
That's good.
That's delicious. Just
I'm glad
in the
you said
kitchen
toast, by the way. Because I like
it's gotta be
toast.
toast is better. A little toasted. You got to toast it. Yeah. And you want the peanut butter to kind of melt inside a bit. Peanut butter sandwich, toasted peanut butter sandwich, easily the best calorie dense snack. And passing time while starving. Hey, I sat on the couch and played a lot of guitar between meals when I was competing. I played a little bit of John Madden football too in my early days. I'm not going to lie. I thought, hey, it's good enough for Chris Cormier and Flex Wheeler. It's good enough for me.
Right.
So I would sit and play John Madden football in the early days in the 90s between meals. Nowadays you have no excuse to not be making money, at least on your phone.
Yeah.
Hustling
Exactly.
something. There's back before phones, you did actually have time to kill. You're like, well, what am I going to do? Sitting in this condo by myself, literally just, what do you do?
Do you guys remember that bodybuilder Eric Fankhauser?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
I remember him doing this video where he played Madden while he was on his elliptical.
Yes.
And he was like, when my guy would run, I would start going faster.
I would go faster.
I tried to do that with like a Call of Duty style game on my tablet. I swear to God, like within 30 seconds, I was going to fall down. I was just like, because my guy, I'd have to turn him, and then like to not turn on the treadmill, it was dangerous, man. I had to stop.
Yeah.
That's a riot.
I tried to sit on the bike and play, like even just leaning on the console, riding the bike and play.
Yeah.
But I just, for some reason, I just didn't like it. I was like, nah, I got to just be chilling out to play.
Me too.
I don't wanna, If I'm on the bike, I want to just be in my head and have my music blasting and just thinking about something. Or I just want to watch TV and just be entertained.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I don't want,
Very
I can't handle the effort. I can't, the physical output of coordinating my fingers. I'm not into it.
I'm with you. I'm with you there.
Okay. Yeah. So musical hobby, you know,
Yeah.
learn something, buy a drum set, piss your neighbors off, or get one of those electric ones.
Piss your neighbors off.
There you go.
What about you, Dusty?
You know what? I was fortunate that when I was bodybuilding the most, I still own the businesses. Like I didn't have free time.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a curse. I think it's funny that a lot of people these days, they're like, "Oh, all right, I'm getting ready for a show. I think I'm going to take off 2 months of work." And I'm like, why?
That's the
Oh,
worst.
God, it's going to be so brutal.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much easier to literally, like, I had to put alarms in my phone so the alarm would go off so I knew to drop everything, eat the meal, and get back. And then I did have a couple preps where I was done with the business. It was so much hard. I realized I was hungry. I didn't have time to realize I was hungry. Like, you're busy and I mean, literally, you know how it is. You guys have both been there. When you're slammed, there's no, I mean, if you imagine you're trying to prep now. Like, you do it, but there's no time to think about being hungry.
Yeah.
You know, so I always consider that a blessing to be slammed, you know, because like I said, I did it once or twice, and too much time it's also, I think a lot of people that have idle time are why they analyze their physiques too far, why they question every little thing they're doing. Like, it's not that I was just so confident. I didn't have time to worry about it. That was Chris's job.
Yeah.
Tell me what to eat. I'll get it down. I got to go.
Yeah. I had a bunch of people comment this week about what you said about Chris Aceto. I had a couple people say they just died when
that was good.
You said, will he eat a potato even if he doesn't want to? People thought that was so funny. And my training partner, he said that he loves how Chris boils everything down to just like the littlest little thing.
Yep.
Like, how can you take take this concept and just make it this? Will he eat a potato?
Yeah. Yeah.
I also love that there's no like context before that. There's no back and forth.
No, but if you're smart, but if you know, if you understand, you're like, I know what he means. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I laughed. It was great.
I think that's the best advice though. The stay busy thing. I think that my first prep, the company I worked for, I was a warehouse manager and the company was going under. And so I wrote it out and got laid off. And I was like, okay, this is good actually, because I'm prepping for a show and I'll take this last couple months and just like live the lifestyle. And it was brutal, it was brutal because it was just me sitting on the couch and on the message boards and listening to podcasts. And that was, it kind of sucked versus the next show. My girlfriend was competing and I was helping her. And I had a job again and I was super busy with that. And I remember her show was 2 weeks before mine. And I was at the show and people were like, I was way in it was, I mean, obviously I had more experience, but I was in way better shape. And people were like, oh, what class are you in today? Because they thought I was competing by looking at my face and stuff. And I realized like I should have done that show too, because I was definitely ready for it. And it dawned on me. I'm like, wait, I'm 2 weeks out now. Like I got through it already.
You didn't even realize where you were because you're so focused.
Yeah, I'm so busy, fucking busy. Yeah, I remember prepping for a show when I was going to college full time, and I remember just like it just fucking flew by. Like it was just evaporated. So okay,
right.
What's the next one, buddy?
All right. Kevin 21 says, I have very long arms and very short tricep insertions because my triceps end halfway up my arm. In a t-shirt, I look like the asshole that only trains biceps. Any tips? Or should I embrace the dark side?
Well, by dark side, does he mean time to start juicing, or does he mean like shoot the shit out of them and hope they just like look okay?
Even shooting the shit out wouldn't work because they're already way up there. That doesn't bring them down the
not
arm.
going to change anything.
Yeah.
So two things you got to do. First of all, you have to be very selective about your t-shirt sleeves. I have always been very selective. They either have to be like to the elbow, like leg day shirt, or they have to be high enough up the bicep that my tricep shows, like decently high up and snug enough that there's no bagginess. Like, there's I'm very picky about sleeves, especially now that my arms aren't as big as they used to be. I really want to make sure that they're not like being out angled by a poorly fitting sleeve. It's an important concern that every self-respecting retired bodybuilder needs to keep in mind, and that's why sometimes chop.
Yeah.
Just take the sleeves right off. Like Mutant has this one shirt that says train like hell on the back.
Yeah.
Which is yours.
And I love that.
Ahead.
I love that shirt because train like hell is like one of my things that I always say. And I like the shirt. It's nice and wide in the shoulders, and it's got a long hang, got a good hang on that shirt.
Key.
But the sleeves were wrong for me. So that's one of my sleeveless ones. You got to go sleeveless in that one for me. Dusty's arms are big enough. He can probably just push them up and they'll stay, but I was unsuccessful.
Well, everyone knows that I'm the asshole that doesn't train biceps. So maybe this guy and I should meet in the middle.
Right.
Damn,
But
fuck.
There you go.
There's that look you get, like the look of the guy, like when you're like around average size people that train, and they definitely do a lot to make sure you see their biceps. But then you see a big guy like one of you guys, and you're at the expo or something, and then there's the guys who just wear a t-shirt and they don't try to do anything with it, and you can just see under the sleeve. The sleeve might come down to their their elbow almost, and you're like, oh shit, that guy's arms are fucking huge. Like that's to me, that's the goal. Like look like that. You know what I mean? That was always the goal.
Can't hide it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I gave Ian Valère like a 5X West Coast Iron shirt.
Yeah.
That we had, and it wasn't like a tight t-shirt. It was like made to be like a bigger shirt. It was like one of our old ones, like one of those cotton Gildans that we had early in the day, right?
Yeah.
And I gave him like a 5X, and the next day he was wearing it in the gym. It was like busting on his arm. Like it went all the way to the elbow, so you couldn't see any of his arm, but it was just like fucking.
Yeah.
And I remember just like it looked like if you walked up and just started with like a razor and cut the shirt, it would just like
just split,
unfold.
Yeah. So when you got arms like that, it doesn't fucking matter. But in my case, I have to like pay attention to the angles,
Yeah. Anything else you're going to add there, Dusty?
No, that's it.
All right. Then we got one for you from Gabs. He says, question for Dusty. Does melanotin 2 affect tattoo color? Just got a fresh blackout sleeve.
No.
What's a blackout sleeve?
If it's what I think it is, his entire arm is black.
Just black.
Yeah. I've seen people, it's a thing now.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. But no, because of how melanotan works, it's a pigment issue. So it has nothing to do with an artificial ink put in your body. So no, it won't affect it at all.
Okay.
I didn't like the melanotan stuff though, because I found all like your freckles and everything else also get darker.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get to that point where Skip was for like 10 years, where you're like a different color. And I'm like, does no one tell him? Do we not tell him? Do we tell him? We don't tell him.
When we were at the Arnold a few years ago, I'm walking around with Skip, and people were like, hey, good luck this weekend.
Because he's so dark for the melanotan. They thought he was in fucking tan.
Hopping in Masters.
Yeah. Like, hey,
It's
good luck, man.
amazing.
Good luck this weekend, buddy. Like people who didn't know him and stuff.
Yeah,
They're just like,
that's
oh, yeah.
amazing. Well, plus he's always in shape, so
Yeah.
I could see that. Like he's got
Yeah.
veins coming flying down. They're like, oh, he's obviously competing. He's got protan on and he's sliced.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good shit.
I remember when I first met him, I thought he was transracial.
That's actually valid.
I thought he was like, oh, identify as African American, or whatever. Yeah,
So I went with it. I went with it.
No, he had a good tan, solid tan, excellent tan.
All right, I think there's like a couple more, and they maybe were like drug related. Let's see here. Quick question from Andy Boy. He says, maybe for the next show, why wouldn't we be able to use D-ball alone if it's a testosterone derivative? I understand it shuts off HTPA function, but it wouldn't be any more than injecting testosterone anyways. I understand Winnie and Anavar aren't testosterone derivatives, so taking them without test wouldn't be a good idea. Thanks, guys. Love the show as always.
Well, first of all, I'm not a scientist, but I can tell you what I've seen personal experience. Everything is dose related when it comes to all these different drugs and what the side effects that you hear. Oh, that makes you watery. Well, it's dose related,
Right.
So D-ball would traditionally be something that I think to take an effective dose of D-ball would probably result in more water retention than an effective dose of testosterone by itself.
Yeah.
That's one thing I might venture to guess. I don't know. I remember my first cycle of D-ball, I blew up on water. And then my first cycle of Sustanon, I only had a bit of water on me. So I'm not sure if he's able to get anti-aromatase, aromatase inhibitors and stuff to try to help, but I don't know. I think I'd rather prep on just test. I've done it before and I got shredded.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if I'd want to prep on D-ball alone. It just doesn't sound like something I would be, something I would do. And then as far as just taking Winnie or Anavar by itself, I mean, you could totally do that. It's not like you're going to fucking shrink or anything. In fact, I remember one of the most shredded people I've ever seen in my life was this guy named Bill. And I remember from Australia, and I asked him, I'm like, what are you on? He was like a middleweight.
Yeah.
He was just ungodly, next level, disgusting, the most strided human I've ever seen up close, kind of. And he's like, oh, I'm just on Winstrong Clen. That's all I'm on.
No kidding.
So that's my experience with that question.
There you go. I mean, my answer is, who said you couldn't do that?
Yeah.
I was going to throw in people say you
could.
can't do,
Dose related is you got to find.
I never
dose.
said that. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess for me, the only reason that I would make a blanket statement like that would be why? Why would you avoid test with it, or why would you, because I have found great success on keeping test very low while doing other things. I've definitely learned since retiring that I think I was running tests higher than I ever needed to the whole time.
No kidding.
Now I feel better, lower, and do the other things as I want to, and I'm like, oh, I don't think I ever really needed that. I mean, I know I'm not doing the exact same things, but as far as an acetoism, there are no rules in bodybuilding. That's my advice for everyone. Same thing when somebody says, "Do you think this is a good cycle?" I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know. Try it." Yeah. If you want to run that all by itself, why not? But to me, if you're going to go on something, you're going to throw your hormones off. I've just always been in the mindset of then go on and go big and get done with it and then get off. As opposed to fucking it up because I took 50 milligrams of D-ball for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Make it worthwhile.
I'm greedy. What can I say?
I'm with you
more?
guys. No. I'm with you guys, and I'll just add I think my only fear of guys who do oral only cycles is that I think that if you were to do it once, okay, more power to you, so kind of see what things are like. If that's all you ever do, and now you're like, hey, now I want to do another cycle, and I'm going to now stack it with Winstrol, and you start doing stuff like I think that down the road you would probably deal with more health consequences if you were only relying on orals. So I just throw it out there to him that hey, you want to get your feet wet? Okay, cool, but
right,
yeah.
I think this one. So we have one more. From Raiden Sky. And I think this goes back to Dusty talking about moving shots around versus just sticking with the basic stuff. How many milliliters would you put in each muscle group max? Like arms less than glutes, etc.
I would do arms more than glutes because I don't think you should put shots in your glutes, but that's just me. No, as far as milliliters, my experience is actually the needle becomes the problem with guys who eventually see atrophy when their career is over. It's actually taking shots over and over with a, larger needle. A lot of guys are saying now, like if you can use smaller pins, even insulin syringes, that'd be better for those types of things. It's not what I do. I use a 23-1 all the time. And I'll put 2 milliliters in one spot. It's never been an issue for me, but you're going to have some discomfort maybe, but I've always done the same thing. Get done taking a shot. Of course, clean up, take the shot. I'll usually, before the end of the night, take a massage gun to it again. Kind of break up that. And that's always been successful, but try things yourself and see. The biggest thing is just the moving around is my obsession. I hate seeing, for example, the middle delt is the spot that so many guys just have this lump. And I'm like, you don't see that?
Yeah, you don't want
You're also
lumps. You don't want
shooting
anything
into
like that.
concrete. Yeah. I mean, keep that in mind is exactly what Ron said. You're not trying to create muscle. You're not trying to, how do I get a peak? Not by putting a bunch of shots in your biceps over and over in one spot. It just looks stupid.
Right. It'll look weird.
Yeah. Moved around, but I would also say just take what you're comfortable with, because I always wanted to be able to hit my quads just because they're easy and they're right there. I did it twice. Both times it was near-death experience. I was literally like hobbling. If like somebody like, what do they call that back in the day? Like somebody would knee you in the side of the leg.
Charlie horse?
Yeah. That's what it felt like for 3 days.
Oh, God.
And I know guys who do it all the time and they have nothing. I'm just such a bitch for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some guys that love quads.
Yeah, some of my most horrendous experiences of my life were quad shots.
See?
Of your life.
It's counting women, everything. Fuck.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible. It's one thing if your shoulder hurts from a bad shot or you got a sore tricep, but when you can't, when your leg is so fucking sore, you can't do anything. It's like you might as well be on crutches for like 3 days. Like I've limped around with some bad quad shots.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like when you do a muscle, this is theory, so no one write me and tell me I'm a moron, but I just felt like if you hit a shoulder or your arm, you move so much that maybe it breaks up quicker.
Right. Right. But bodybuilders just really take a shot and lay around.
Much. So your arms kind of handle themselves. I'm like, it seemed to make sense to me.
They don't move. And if you think about it, your vastus lateralis, the outside quad, doesn't stretch much when you bend your knee all the way.
No.
It doesn't really have its range of motion isn't that long. It only goes like this. Like you can fold your knee right to your heel right to your butt, and your side quad doesn't really stretch tremendously.
Well, that's what I mean though, because when you do like a delt, you don't even have to think about stretching. Like, you move
just
enough
reaching
just
across.
By life.
The range of motion on a delt is
Yeah.
so big. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. So, lifting your spoon to eat your cereal, you're just like pumping that shot out of there.
This is all you're helping yourself by eating cereal is the point of the story.
There you go.
I'll only add, so Dusty can do 2 in a bicep. If your bicep is not as big as Dusty's, then maybe you want to do less. You know what I'm saying? Like you got a lot of bicep there. There is that. If we're talking to someone who has 15-inch arms, maybe less than 2.
Maybe. Probably smart. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I had.
All right, so we do our own questions now?
Well, I had a couple questions saved, and then I had Instagram questions. But I figured Instagram questions would be the next episode, right? Is that how you want to do it?
Well, it depends on how many we got. I got in trouble last time for ending the show abruptly. People were very heated. Very heated.
I think one thing I think we should have done differently last week is if we're going to record 2 episodes, the first one should be the heavy hitter, the longer show, because you know what I'm saying? Because we came in with a bang, but then it was like, oh, it's only 30 minutes, and people were like, dude. Somebody actually said the other day, they're like, gone are the days When it's just bodybuilding was an hour long.
It used to be 2 hours long. That's why we did it, because we've always
God
recorded for about 2
forbid
hours.
one of us gets really fucking busy and has to fucking do a short
One
show.
episode.
One episode.
Oh man, that
Gone are the
reminds me-
days. I remember when I was young and Dusty and Ron and Scott would actually care about their audience enough to give us 60 whole minutes. These selfish fucks.
I get punished for doing things one time. I get a hooker once, it's a problem. This happens
Right,
once,
right.
it's a
Like I gotta go soon. My hooker's gonna be here. I can only record till 11 a.m. because I'm Dusty and I do things at odd times of day.
Can't help when the family's gone. I got to bring the hooker in.
Yeah,
there.
I have the
Jesus.
house to myself at 11. That's the time I gotta use. It's
Sorry. I digress. Okay. Well, here, we'll just randomly throw some in then. What are your saved questions, Rob?
So I had one. Walking the line of getting truly peeled, the last stubborn fat areas that aren't in, like lower back, glute, already been dieting for 6 months. I'm 2 weeks out of my 4th show. There's still a little bit on my glutes. I have no problem pushing hard. I've been dieting for months, but it seems like my personal level of hardness, I just can't seem to get the last bit off my glutes and get them striated. I just feel like I'm getting skinnier and not harder. Any advice?
That is tough without a shit ton of context.
Yeah.
Because pictures.
It is possible, and I've done this myself, where I've lost muscle to get, I've lost 10% of quality to get 1% leaner. You know what I'm saying? So like I lost. I wasn't as good. The Dusty 6 weeks of hell later would have lost to the guy 6 weeks ago. So I'm not going to say that that's not possible. The question is striations versus conditioning. Because, for example, look at Jay Cutler from the back when he's peeled out of his mind. Look at his glutes. Now think of Ronnie and Kai. Look at their glutes. Look how deep those striations are. Now look at how big their asses are.
Yeah, that's a big factor.
When you have more tissue, you have deeper lines. So it is feasible that you are as lean as you can get, or as much as your glutes are going to come in. I do think that it's a mistake some guys make. It's like, well, my triceps aren't striated like Lee Priest's, so I must not be in shape. Well, no, yours just don't fucking look like that.
Right.
So that's a possibility. The other thing is, are you taking measurements? I think that's key. If you're starting to worry about actually if you're losing size, that's the way to know. Because
literal scientific data.
Yeah, you should. It should be absolute. Because if you don't have that, then sometimes it's your mind kind of trying to convince you to not push further. Because I mean, I look at John Meadows. I mean, the guy like ate water for weeks on end to get peeled out of his head, and I don't think he lost any size. So I understand genetics, drugs, everything else, but the point is I think a lot of times people are convinced they can't go further because mentally it's hard. Dieting for 6 months is impressive, but dieting for 3 weeks in complete hell is also another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say is, there is a possibility, it's rare, but there is a possibility after dieting for 6 months, if he's come down a long ways, maybe he needs to eat for a few days. Like maybe he needs to up his carbs and fill out a bit for everything to pop.
Good
I mean,
point.
it's possible
Good
that
point.
he never really filled out. He said he's doing his 4th show. I mean, it's possible that with all the shows close together, he never really, filled out and he's just doesn't realize that, there's a bit more pop there if he was kind of done dieting. And that's the trap some guys get in, is they think they have to keep pushing because they're looking for those cuts that aren't there. But the muscle's just so they're just so dieted that there's no cuts, So it's like that endless pursuit of something that you've passed. It's like in the back. It's like behind you and you've run past it,
Yeah.
Because, you do see guys, like I have seen the couple odd guys where they eat for 3-4 days after a show and their glutes are more striated.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
That happens. It happened to me once.
Yeah.
There was one time
heartbreaking.
I woke up the Sunday after my show and my glutes were way more strided. Like I couldn't believe it. It was the only time that ever happened to me. Yeah. I ate an entire large pizza and a liter of ice cream and a bunch of fucking junk and just junk.
Yeah.
And guzzled like a gallon of water and went to bed. I woke up in the morning and I was like, oh my God, what the fuck did I do?
Where
I
was
so
this
flat.
yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
New
That was
peaking
2008. I was 2008. That really sucked. Only time that ever happened. I just got too depleted. I just got really flat the week before. I didn't realize how flat I was.
It can be hard to fill back out, you know,
Yeah.
even in a week, you know.
I remember my glutes had like all the fibers, but they were like dancing around kind of faint, you know?
Right.
Like you could tell I was shredded. Like people backstage were like, oh man, you're ripped.
Yeah.
But there was no push, you know?
Right.
And then the next morning, the glutes had like crunch to them, like crunch. And I was like, oh.
I always
Where
lost
was
it.
this yesterday?
I would lose it
Yeah.
with my legs. That's where I would lose it.
Yeah,
And-
the quads were way harder. Like, you
Yeah.
know, the difference between being shredded and being shredded and hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
sure.
it wasn't until I actually kind of figured something out talking with Skip about it, because he was like, dude, you're not losing muscle. Because I was like, oh, I lose muscle going into a show. You know, he's like, dude, you're not losing muscle. You're just not filling out. And the analogy I've come to use is like if you wash your car at home and you've got that sponge in the bucket, if you go out in the spring, here in Michigan, we don't wash our cars in the yard in the wintertime, but in the spring you go out and you fill that bucket up with water, and when you drop the sponge in it, it's like it doesn't just absorb immediately. And I feel like that's what my legs were after, you know, pounding them for 8 weeks of dieting real hard at the end, where you just stick that sponge in the bucket and it's resistant, you know, versus
Right,
if you can refill them, you know, regularly, you know, the next week you come back out and that sponge just absorbs. So I feel like that's the best, like that's the mental picture I have of what my legs would do, you know?
Yeah.
If you're washing
Yeah,
a
that's
car with
interesting.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
There you go.
Awesome.
It was good. Do we have anything left on the YouTube?
Nothing
hit
left
one
on
more?
YouTube. We didn't have anything
Nothing
else.
left on YouTube.
That was all we had. Yeah.
Okay. What's the latest news going on with the Think Big channel, Scott? How many shows do you have going on now on this channel?
You know what? Us doing 2 shows has made people's week, that they're really enjoying seeing us more frequently. So that's, I think, a real highlight right now. And people are really enjoying the Drugs and Stuff podcast with Dave Crossland. So we do that one. We do Blood, Sweat, and Gear. We've got one of those coming out each week. And every other week or so, we do a Muscle Minds with Scott Stevenson. So that's kind of like the regular scheduled stuff at this point.
What is
we
Blood, Sweat, and Gear? What's the main like jam? That's the one I did, right?
Yep. You were just on that. And Ron, you were on that one a while ago. And both of those episodes did really good too.
What's what's different with that show other than obviously hosts?
Less
Like, what do you guys
talk
cover?
about hookers and blow.
And blow.
You know, little
more
less hookers and
specific.
blow. Yeah, it's more like
specific.
a coaching Q&A kind of show. You know,
yeah.
So we're just bodybuilding and blow and hookers and shit.
Hookers.
exactly,
Things.
exactly.
That's written in real small writing under ours.
It's just bodybuilding
and then there's a list of shit underneath.
And we have a really cool announcement coming soon.
Yes,
We've got
Yes,
we
we do.
just finalized something that we're really excited about, and it's going to be good for the podcast. It's going to be great for you guys
yes.
because it'll be great for us. So anything that's great for us and makes doing the podcast, you know, better for us and more productive and make it look better and sound better and be better and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We're excited.
I'm pumped.
So
I was going to tell you guys that I forgot about this. So every Tuesday I go do my smoke night, and we're sitting there, and the podcast came up because a bunch of the guys there now are into bodybuilding, and this guy's like, "Oh yeah, they got a great podcast," and his wife was there, and she's like, "Oh, what's the name of it?" So I said, "Oh, it's just bodybuilding," and I kept going, and then she goes, "It's just bodybuilding." She goes, "The titles of your shows are interesting." I didn't. And I was like, "What do you mean?" And so she starts rattling them off, and I was like,
she's on her phone, yeah.
and I go, I think that's kind of the joke now. Is it's really not a lot of bodybuilding anymore? And she goes, "Well, now I have to listen." And I got a text. I got a text like 2 days later from him, and he goes, "She loves the show."
That's great.
She doesn't watch. Has nothing to do with bodybuilding at all. I was like, "This is amazing." So I think the blow and hookers blow and whatever really got her going.
That's a line that'll rope anybody in.
Yeah.
I don't care.
You got to click.
I don't care who you are.
Even if you don't tell your friends, you're going to click on that.
Oh, and yeah, like everyone from like, the high school kid to the Mormon dad.
Yeah.
They see hookers and blow.
Curiosity gets what I love though is now in hindsight, now that I know she's watched, I'm like, she's got a totally distorted view of Ron because I was like, no, that doesn't. So you're saying you didn't get a hooker in Australia?
Yeah, right.
You didn't
Exactly.
have a hooker, and she doesn't have the story that led into that. So.
In fact, if you just put all of our episode titles in front of any one of my clueless family members and told them to pick a random episode, they'd be like Chris Aceto, John Meadows, Hookers and Blow. That's the one I want to. That's the first episode I'm going to pick.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it actually made me think because The Hangover came out. I told you that the other day, and it reminded me of that line. He's like, 4 wolves in Vegas looking for hookers and cocaine. I was like,
yes.
And there we are.
So I have to tell you guys a story before we finish this episode.
Yes.
We'll close this episode. I went and saw Top Gun last night.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it. What'd you think?
I saw the original.
I had a lot of fun.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun. It was exactly what I was hoping they were going to make for me.
Good.
It sort of reminded me of The Force Awakens, the first Star Wars movie since Disney, like when Disney, came back with the sequels in like, what year was that? 2010 or whatever, whenever 2013 or whatever. Yeah, the first one back, which was I actually liked that one.
Okay.
The first one back I actually liked. But yeah, it was the beginning of the ruining. Yeah. Just kidding. But yeah, so the three sequel movies, The Force Awakens had like all these things that were obviously put right in there for my age group.
Right.
Yeah. Right. They're making a new movie for a new audience, so they got the new characters and they got to appeal to like the new batch of kids and everything. But they know that all the 40-year-old parents and people like me are sitting in the theater, so they throw in the Millennium Falcon and they bring Harrison Ford back and they fucking, you know what I mean? Like there's all these like awesome things that they did just for me, and I'm like, thank you very much. I'll selfishly take all of those wonderful little tributes you just gave me,
Right. Yeah.
And that was the same thing. It's like the producers went and watched Force Awakens and they're like, okay, Disney fucked up the next couple of movies, but we're going to take this premise and we're just going to deliver that. And it was like, Tom Cruise pulls the cover off his old bike.
Yeah, I did like that. I was like, oh,
Hops.
there it is.
He's got the new bike. Like, wasn't there a couple of bikes there? I got to watch that.
He got the new bike
again.
once so he had the old bike when he was where he was, but when they sent him off to San Diego, he had the new bike.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He like pulls the cover off and gets on the old Ninja or whatever.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that an old Ninja or something?
That was, remember. Yeah. Oh,
and,
yeah.
It was like a 1985 Ninja,
Yeah,
he
and then they have the
on
brand new one now.
Yeah, and then the whole like, I don't want to ruin the movie for people. There's a bunch of stuff like that where you're like, they're bringing, okay, here we go. There was a bunch of stuff, I'll question whether millennials would actually know the words to Great Balls of Fire, but still a great scene. I'll take it,
And you have to admit though, the character that they used, could absolutely have been related to Goose.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, they did a great job of that. That was all
cast was like, I was like, well, damn, I'd believe that in real life. Okay.
Yeah. It was good. There was a couple of other things that really stood out. They clearly made a point of trying to deliver an 80s style retro movie. Like,
yeah, I think that's part of the reason I got annoyed on some of them, though, because there were a couple points where I was like, okay, that was super cheesy. It's okay.
Yeah,
that was cheesy.
Yeah, like they went out of their way to, like, you know. So at the beginning, you know, like relatively close to the beginning, when they're introducing all the other pilots in that bar scene and they're playing pool.
Yeah.
Okay, that scene worried me a little.
Yeah, because it was early
when
too.
It was really getting cheesy. Like, you know, each character's walking into the bar, like making their appearance, and they're all like eyeing each other up. Oh, you're here too, you know, and they're all having their little showdown conversation moment. And, you know, it was like, I was like, oh, we're going to do this. This is an 80s, totally 80s setup. Like, but then they kind of like, they corrected. Were okay after that. Yeah.
Agreed.
But I had fun. I just wanted to throw that review out, and you know, what else do you think, Dusty, about that movie?
Well, I think that the most important thing about that movie had nothing to do with the movie. It was that they have a $20 bucket of popcorn at this movie theater I went to that you could buy for $20, but you get refills for the rest of the year for $4.
No, that's not bad.
Which is half price of a normal popcorn. And I came in, and I wasn't going to get popcorn that day. I was going to hold it tight and not eat popcorn. And I sat down. I'm like, who the fuck am I kidding? And I went back and I bought the $20 one. And the guy came back and he goes, this is the second to last one of these buckets that we're selling. I was like,
oh, no way.
Good call.
Meant to be.
So you got up out of your seat and you went,
oh yeah, I left. I went back.
That's a real decision made by you.
It wasn't on the way.
It was proof that I was in pure denial of who I was, that I actually walked by the first time. Like, I was actually embarrassed for myself. I came back up and I'm like, I'm sorry. I thought I was a better man, but I'm not. So can I get that giant fucking popcorn?
So my thing is I get the large Diet Coke, half ice. I want like half the normal amount of ice, so there's more Diet Coke. And then I get the big bag of chocolate M&Ms.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
All M&Ms are chocolate, but go ahead.
Yeah. And I didn't quite finish the M&Ms. I actually like made a point to not finish them just so I wouldn't feel like a fatso.
Let's talk about how much better a person Ron is than me. Because what I do is put the M&Ms in the popcorn and I finish all of it.
Yeah. There you go. Get them all buttery. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's now heated M&Ms and popcorn, and all of it is gone before I leave. So.
Nice.
There you go.
Oh,
everybody wants to know one of the many reasons that Ron is a better bodybuilder than me. There it is.
I got something else I wanted to ask you guys about. Did you, either you guys, I sent you a link on our group chat. This is the other day I sent it. This was in regard to, Ron, you had that question about meeting bodybuilders. And there was a video that somebody shared in our Facebook group.
Oh, the Bret Hart one.
Yeah, Bret Hart. I'm going to see if I can just I wonder if I can play this. Oh, of course, there's a commercial to start.
I remember seeing that before.
This dude, okay, of course, I gotta wait 10 seconds. But the gist is that I know, right? Bret Hart. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Do they go to another ad here? Nope.
You know, when the bodybuilding thing started, it was.
Doesn't like
there's these bodybuilders, and who likes bodybuilders? I mean, talk about zeros in life. You know, I mean, there's nothing. I can't say anything good about bodybuilders at all. What a total waste of your life. You know,
because of the vanity.
Yeah, just the vanity of just all day. You know, there's nothing special about bodybuilders other than they lift weights all day. You know, it's like beauty pageant. Some people are. I don't know. I never had a fascination. I mean, I like a good physique and all that, but I mean, to the point of being obsessed and like bodybuilders and the dieting and the whole thing is like, who cares? Like, I don't see any ability or skill in it at all. Same with.
That was amazing. Like, I felt attacked as an individual and as a group.
Yeah.
There's actually nothing special about them at all.
I wanted to get your take on this.
So my take is twofold on that. I read some comments on that video before.
Yeah.
And one of the comments was someone explaining the context of what he had just been asked. So if you hear at the beginning, he said when the bodybuilder thing started, right? And what he's talking about is the era of wrestling where they started bringing in a bunch of jacked guys, and they were really leaning on the jacked guys. It was like when the TV era when the Monday night thing was going crazy, they were bringing in all these bodybuilders, is what he like. And then obviously he's got previous feelings about bodybuilding, you know.
Right.
But they started bringing all these guys that weren't necessarily the most talented guys. They just had like a crazy TV look.
Huh.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of resentment in the inside wrestling because there was all these guys that were seen as good workers, and they didn't want to work with these bodybuilders because they weren't good workers. They were too stiff and they were dangerous, and they thought, you know, like it really caused some people to be like, fuck, who are these fucking guys that are getting a quick ride to the, you know, TV times and all that stuff.
Okay,
so there's a bit of
sense.
that, but he obviously doesn't like bodybuilders, right? You know, so whatever. I know he's from Calgary, you know, all the Harts are from Calgary. So, you know, he might've been training in Calgary gyms in the 80s, you know, 70s and 80s, putting up with the early, you know, 80s bodybuilders in the gym or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Bret Hart's a good Canadian. I'm not going to hold it against him. But he's, you know, bodybuilder.
I was actually going to agree with almost everything he said. Was the
yeah, like he's not that wrong.
I was
not that wrong. Like
actually, I say that all the time when bodybuilders have a big ego. I'm like, really? Because you lift weights, eat food, and take drugs that you feel special. That's embarrassing. Holy shit. Yeah. I can't argue with him at all. Like,
no,
I got
Bret Hart's been
like,
through a lot.
Yeah.
Bret Hart had a stroke on his motorcycle.
Holy shit.
And like almost died, and had to go through all the rehab from that, and like rehab from the stroke, and came back from all that. And like now he's, you know, he's healthy. And as far as I know, he's, you know,
does he
traveling around again. Probably, you know, I think once your hair is gray, you don't change. Like however you, like the person you are when things gray up, that's it.
That's you.
You're fully evolved.
It's the end.
There's no more like branching out in your friend zones or anything like that. You've locked into a way of living. You know,
I back that actually.
That's funny.
All
so
right.
what was the other question? There was a question. Didn't you say we were gonna? I thought I threw a question for you guys up on there.
You
too.
You did actually. I can grab that really quick because I can't remember. Here it is. You had said it was about a movie. What was a movie that made you laugh so hard that your abs hurt?
Yeah, that was one of the questions I got. Was name a couple movies that you laughed until your abs hurt. And I was trying to think of times where I actually like maybe lost it. And
Liar did that for me.
Liar was funny. Okay. That's a good one.
Yes.
Jim Carrey. That's one of his real funny movies.
Oh yeah.
Real
He's
absurd. Good. That was when Jim Carrey was kind of like, you know, the Ace Ventura, the whole absurd comedy sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, Liar was one of those.
Yeah, I thought that was a classic because there were so many things. I think, like all good humor, when someone says something that's funny that you agree with, it's funnier. You know, so like the scene where his son is telling him, well, my teacher says that beauty is from the inside. And he goes, that's just something ugly people say. And
that's such a classic line. That's such a classic line. That's a good one too, because Jim Carrey really gets his physical comedy in there too, with like,
oh yeah,
you know, like how reactive he is. Like when the judge asks him questions and he's like, yes, I mean no, like he can't, you know, like
his hair all pulled sideways.
Yeah, it's a good. I was remembering one time I laughed until my abs, they were cramping. So I had ab cramps. I was hysterically laughing, trying not to be loud, losing my mind. I was probably a little bit high. And
for sure.
And I actually had ab cramps start to happen, and I had to like bridge up in my chair.
Yeah.
Stretch out my abs. And that was watching Team America World Police in the theater.
Oh God. You're taking it back.
Yeah, well, you remember Team America, right?
Yes.
With the dolls.
Scott, you don't remember?
I don't remember it clearly though.
Oh,
like
God.
I remember it, but I like wasn't. Yeah.
The South Park guys.
Yeah.
Oh, Team America just killed me. I couldn't believe, and at the time, some of the jokes they had in there, like when the two puppets are fucking, and oh Jesus, yeah, just so hilarious. But yeah, that movie fucking made me lose my shit. I was uncontrollably laughing, and my abs started to cramp, and I was having a hard time breathing, and I was just fucking losing it. I don't know how often that's ever happened to you guys, but I was fucking losing it.
I've had like ab sore, face sore, but I do like the embarrassing tears. Like you're actually having.
Yeah. Oh, I was full on crying.
I'm like crying. You're like, it's not that kind of crying. It's okay.
I couldn't breathe. I was gasping for air. I was with my buddy James, and he was laughing super hard too. But then he started laughing more at me. He
was laughing at you.
He's like, Jesus, dude, like you were gonna die. Yeah. Theater was almost empty. I remember that. There was like fucking nobody in there except a couple of people. So it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like opening night and I was ruining it for everyone, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You have one, Scott?
No, but are we going to do 2 shows?
Yeah.
We should still loaded.
Okay.
I still got all my Instagram questions.
Okay, we should probably, we should
probably,
right. We should
wrap this up.
We should, yeah. Yes.
Turn it black again.
Okay.
Boom, over.
Okay. So remember, like, share, subscribe, comment.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. And yeah, it's just bodybuilding. Thanks, everybody.